Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I didn't realize that time has flown so quickly while I was sitting here calmly enjoying the warm afternoon and listening to the sounds of the waterfall. Well, this is Flower Child 567, and you are tuning in to the ESO Tamriel Storyteller Hour, and I'm so happy you're here. I have so many fun things to share with you today. Well, actually, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to continue and complete the tales, the lore of Nirn. We have 5 books left yet to read, and so that's what I'm going to share with you today. Isn't this just a beautiful, beautiful, tranquil spot? And it's in my yard. Isn't that exciting? All right, well, come along. Let's go ahead and head inside. We're going to go down here in the back door. And into the library. And yeah, here we are. We're at the Kelleson Ruin Workshop, which is also known as the Retreat of the 8 Divines. And here we are. Oh, look good. He's always here working. Busy working. Hello, Birodar.
Why are these histories so boring? This one hoped to spend the day reading about exciting times. But these are full of nothing but political facts and figures. Makes Biro's head hurt.
I'm sorry to hear that, Biro. I'm happy you're here, though, chronicling everything and making your own records. I suppose one day we'll have a book written by you here in the library. All right, so as you know, we are going to head up and open up the process that we always go through. So let's just go right here for a second. I'm doing everything backwards, and I hope you don't mind, but that's just the way it's got to be today. Backwards. Let's call it Backwards Friday. Oh, goodness, I don't know. All right, let me light the candles, and let me open up and pull out the Apocryphal Tome, and there we go, and look at that. Now I can open up the portal, and we can begin to read. Let's see what we're going to read today. I have a new book here, so... Oh, what's this? A griffin. Let me make a note here that a griffin came out when I opened up that book, because I didn't expect that. All right, now I have noted it. All right, let's go on back down to our... Oh, I have to reopen the portal here because it's closed up on me. So let's open up that portal, get it going here. Yes, I love that portal. It's a good portal. It's always safe and secure when I use that portal. Anyways. All right. Okay, here we are. There's lots of activity going on today, just so you know. And any sounds you hear in the background, it's because there's a festival of sorts going on around me. And, well, people are talking, and people are doing all kinds of... Hey, Biro?
There may have been a small incident at the merchant's shop today. Birodar had nothing to do with it, of course.
Of course,
This one studied without pause all day long. All day. Certainly Biro never left this house.
You never left the house.
Once.
Not even once. But there was a small incident at the merchant shop today that involved you, but you didn't leave the house all day. Not even once. Yes, I can vouch for you. You've been here all day. All right. If you recall, we're actually going to complete reading these books here. And one of them, the first one we'll start with, is on my desk. So let me just have a seat here and open up our lore book and our journal and our inventory. And I already have it set up. Sorry about that. But if you were to open up normally, crafting motifs, of course, and then we go into eidetic memory, and then we go down to Shalador's library. And as you scroll down, there you go, Legends of Nirn. There are 10 books. Remember last time I read 5 of them. These books, these physical books that you can place in your own homes, can be purchased at Mages Guild merchant shops, okay? So they're worth having, I think. But we're going to be reading the Amulet of Kings, the Cleansing of the Fane, the Exclusionary Mandates, the Last King of the Alyeids, and the Order of the Ancestor Moth. So, these are all parts of Nirn and important legends. Maybe you've heard them, maybe you haven't, but today you're going to. So, let's begin with the Amulet of the Kings. I have to have it right here. Guess I have to stand up because it doesn't want to open. There we go. There we go. The Amulet of Kings, first edition by Winningrass Monhana. In the first years of the First Era, a powerful race of elves called the Alyeids, or the Heartland High Elves, ruled central Tamriel with an iron hand. The high and haughty Alyeids relied on their patrons, the treacherous Daedra lords, to provide armies of Daedra and dead spirits. With these fearless magical armies, the Alyeids preyed without mercy upon the young races of men, slaughtering or enslaving them at their whim. On behalf of the suffering human races, Saint Alicia, the first in the line of Cyrodiils, sought the aid of Akatosh, the dragon god of time and ruler of the noble Aedra. Akatosh, looking with pity upon the plight of men, drew precious blood from his own heart, blessed Saint Alicia with this blood of dragons, and made a covenant. So long as Alicia's generations were true to the dragon blood, Akatosh would endeavor to seal tight the gates of oblivion and deny the armies of Daedra and undead to their enemies, the Daedra-loving Alyeids. In token of this covenant, Akatosh gave to Alicia and her descendants the Amulet of Kings and the eternal dragonfires of the imperial city. Thus does Alicia become the first gem in the Cyrodiilic Amulet of Kings. The gem is the red diamond in the middle of the amulet, and this is the symbol of the empire, surrounded by 8 other gems, one for each of the divines. So long as the empire shall maintain its worship of Akatosh and his kin, and so long as Alicia's heirs shall bear the Amulet of Kings, Akatosh and his divine kin maintain a strong barrier between Tamriel and oblivion, so that mortal man need never again fear the devastating summon host of the Daedra lords. If the empire should slacken in its dedication to the 8 divines, or if the blood of Alicia's heirs should fail, then shall the barriers between Tamriel and the Daedric realms fall, and Daedra worshippers might summon lesser Daedra and undead spirits to trouble the races of men. Well, here in Tamriel, I don't know. Do you think and all is safe, do you? I think there's lots of other activity coming from Oblivion here into Tamriel. Well, so it is, and I suppose so it shall be. And life in Tamriel goes on. So, let's see what's up next for our reading pleasure today. I want to go back over here. And we finished last time with, let's see, what did we finish? The Adabal A. So we're going to continue right here. In defense of Prince Hubelejad. In defense of Prince Hubelejad by Lady Cinnabar of Tanith. If you know anything about Yukudan history, you're aware of the role Prince Hubelejad played or did not play in the early days following the initial Ragada colonization. We know Prince Hugh as a comic figure. Share tells of his thick-headed approach to impossible problems and just about his aggressive opulence. A shrine to Szeth floods as a sign of the god's displeasure. Build a more extravagant one further downstream. An oft-repeated Tanith expression for wasting money is laying foundation with Hubelejad's coin. Yet, what is truly known of the luckless prince? The only references available are third-hand documents at best. The many apocryphal tells muddy the issue, drawing us further and further away from the actual man. You know, one of my pet peeves is the word further and farther. And here it would be properly used, drawing us farther and farther away from the actual man. Therefore, we must look to the land of Hugh's Bane itself to draw our own conclusions. What if, for only a moment, we approach what are commonly accepted as his many failures on their own terms? We know Hubelejad must have arrived in the barren land of what was then called Kefrim's Boot, with a sizable amount of soldiers and artisans. Without local quarries and with no reliable overland route from the north, they needed to import a mass amount of cut stone by sea. The natural protected harbor in what would become Abba's Landing was undoubtedly their first stop. A steady flow of laden barges would prove tempting to pirates, so Hubelejad's first necessity was to construct Nosira Citadel, an imposing fortress overlooking the Abyssian. It is true Nosira was soon undermined by seasonal flooding, but, in response, Hubelejad appealed to Szeth with the shrine, and when subsequent flooding washed out the first shrine, he did order the construction of another, yet more elaborate shrine. But from an examination of the stonework, the new one was upstream of the last, and seen in this light, Prince Hugh's thick-headedness was in fact persistent resolve. Appealing to the Yukudan god of agriculture is not the act of an arrogant or thoughtless man. All the while, Abba's Landing grew from a soldier's camp and shanty town to a sprawling city. And despite the many hardships of this frontier life, Hubelejad constructed a great palace, a symbol that this land was his home, that he was just as committed as the locals to thriving. stone went to the great walls of Abba's Landing, showing that its contents deserved as much protection as the Yucatan ships. For a moment, I ask you to set aside the multiple tombs, the impressive Princess Gate that opened a northern passage to Regatta territory, and the Yucatan statue just south of the Abba's Landing harbor that most erroneously believe was an idealized image of Hubelejad himself. The very act of constructing a citadel and a walled city at the same time with the same pool of resources would require a sharp mind for logistical matters if it was not Hubelejad himself. He knew enough to surround himself with someone who could. This is hardly the style of a witless buffoon. The scale of Hubelejad's setbacks do not, in this author's opinion, justify the tales of endless folly. Was it a whispering campaign from jealous rivals who decried the resources he poured into an inhospitable land? A blemished reputation for not recognizing his half-uncle was a necromancer? Did he invoke the ear of a Yucatan god, or perhaps a Daedric prince? Though we may never truly know, we should keep one thing in mind about Hubelejad. Before his arrival, no man or mer left a mark on this land, and today the only structures surviving 2 millennia were those constructed by Prince Hugh. That's an interesting tidbit of information, isn't it? Well, viewers, I just want to say to you that here in Twitch, right now, if you are interested, you can actually get a gift from Twitch for watching my channel, and it's one of the boxes that we all love so well. All right, The Cleansing of the Fane is our next book. Okay, The Chronicles of the Holy Brothers of Maruk, Volume 4, The Cleansing of the Fane. Editor's Note. This is one of the few surviving fragments of the chronicle of this first era sect of the Elysian Order. It seems to have been kept at their great monastic complex at Lake Canulus, which was razed during the War of Righteousness in the first era 23-21, and its archives destroyed or dispersed. Note also that Elysian scribes of this time customarily dated events from the apotheosis of Alesia, the first era 266. Herein are recorded the events of the year 127 of the blessed Alesia. In this year was the day darkened over all lands, and the sun was as if it were Maser, but 3 days old, and the stars about him at midday. This was on the 5th of the first seed. All who saw it were dismayed, and said that a great event should come hereafter. So it did, for that same year issued forth a great concourse of devils from the ancient elven temple, Malada. Such had not been seen since the days of King Belharza. These devils greatly afflicted the land, such that no man could plow, or reap, or seed, and the people appealed to the brothers of Maruk for succor. And then Abbot Cosmas gathered all the brothers and led them to Malata, also known as the High Fane in the Elvish tongue, and came against it with holy fire, and the foul demons were destroyed, and many devilish relics and books found therein were burned, and the land had peace for many years. Short book, short but sweet. All right. This is the Exclusionary Mandates. The Exclusionary Mandates of Marhukite selection. All are equal. 1. That the Supreme Spirit, Akatosh, is of unitary essence, as proven by the monolinearity of time. 1. That Shizar, the missing sibling, is singularly misplaced, and therefore doubly venerated. 1. That the protean substrate that informs all denial of one is the Aldmeri taint. 1. That the prophet most Simeon demonstrated that monothought begets proper life. 1. That the purpose of proper life is the expungement of the taint. 1. That the arc of time provides the mortal theater for the sacred expungement. 1. That Akatosh is time, is proper life, is taint death. There you have it. Now, what does that all mean? I don't know, but that governs Nirn, right? That governs Nirn. Those are the exclusionary mandates. So, The Last King of the Alyeids. This is a good book. It's really interesting. You know, the Gold Road is all about the Alyeid relics, right? It's all about wood elves also. If you haven't guessed, from the Wednesday, the Gold Road Wood Elf roleplay theater that myself and Stretch do every Wednesday, which is really exciting. And I'll tell you why it's so exciting, because we have an audience viewing our episodes of over 3,000 of you. And I just want to, again, say thank you so much. It just tickles us pink. We love doing the Wood Elf roleplay every Wednesday. And we're just so honored that so many of you take time to watch it. We love it. We have a lot of fun. All right, so The Last King of the Alyeids by Herminia Senna. The Alyeids, or Heartland High Elves, ruled Cyrodiil in the long ages of myth before the beginning of recorded history. One of the earliest recorded dates, in fact, is the fall of the White Gold Tower in the First Era 243, which is commonly assumed to mark the end of the Alyeids. Although Alyeid rule over Cyrodiil was broken in the First Era 243, this was only one of the most obvious stages near the end of a long decline. The first 2 centuries of the First Era saw increasing strife between the great Alyeid lords of Cyrodiil. Alesia appears to have taken advantage of a period of civil war to launch her uprising. Imperial historians have traditionally attributed her victory to intervention from Skyrim, but it appears she had at least as much help from rebel Alyeid lords during the siege of White Gold Tower. The popular image of the Alyeids as brutal slave masters is based in fact, of course, but it is less well known that a number of Alyeid princes continued to rule parts of Cyrodiil after 243 as vassals of the new Empress of Cyrodiil. And this suggests either that Alyeid rule was not universally detested, or that Alesia and her successors were more pragmatic than is traditionally believed, or perhaps some of both. In any event, excavations at a number of Alyeid sites show continued occupation and even expansion during the so-called late Alyeid period, the First Era, 243, to the Common, 498. At first, many Alyeid lords continued to rule as vassals of the new human regime. In some cases, Alyeid supporters of Alesia were even rewarded with new lands taken from slain enemies. It is not clear to what extent human slavery continued under the Cyrodiilic Empire. Humans continued to dwell in the Alyeid-ruled areas of Cyrodiil, but there is nothing definitive to show under what terms. This was an uneasy relationship from the beginning, and it was not destined to last long. Resentment at the continued presence of Alyeid nobles within the empire was a contributing factor to the rise of the so-called Elysian order founded by Maruk. The first victims of the Elysians were the Alyeids of Cyrodiil. In the early 300s, the surviving Alyeid communities in human-ruled areas were obliterated one by one. The refugees temporarily swelled the power of the remaining Alyeid lordships. Then, in 361, the Elysians gained control of the empire and enforced the Elysian doctrines throughout its domain. The Alyeid lordships were abolished. Enforcement of this decree does not appear to have required much direct violence. It seems that by this point, the balance of power was so overwhelmingly against them, and their fate so long foreshadowed, that most of the remaining Alyeids simply left Cyrodiil, eventually being absorbed into the elven populations of Valenwood and High Rock. Indeed, the rise of the Durini hegemony may be linked to the exodus of Alyeids from Cyrodiil, a connection so far studied very little by historians. Still, a remnant Alyeid population seems to have survived the rule of the Elysians, because we've heard of the last king of the Alyeids joining the Battle of Glenumbria Moors, where the Durinis decisively defeated the Elysians in 482. How this king's people survived the preceding century is unknown. We do not even know who they were, although recent research points to Nin Alata as the possible resting place of this last king. Unfortunately, in the current state of the empire, funds are no longer available for proper scientific investigation of such extensive ruins, so the answer to these questions will have to be left to future generations. Now, I'm sure some of you are very aware or have even undergone the quest of the last Alyeid king, and met him. And we watch him be killed, and it's so sad. You know, as a high elf, I'm quite partial to Alyeid history. Anyway. Well, you know what they say. Life goes on, doesn't it? Life goes on. Okay, so now I want to read the last book called The Order of the Ancestor Moth. All right. How many times have you come into combat with the Moth people? All right, here we go. The Order of the Ancestor Moth, to be read by all novices of the temple. The Order of the Ancestor Moth is as ancient as it is noble. We nurture and celebrate our beloved ancestors, whose spirits are manifest in the ancestor moths. Each moth carries the fizron of an ancestor's spirit, loosely translated as the will to peace. The fizron can be sung into the silk produced by the ancestor moths, and when the silk is in turn spun into cloth and embroidered with the genealogy of the correct ancestor, clothing of wondrous power can be made. Adepts of our order are gifted with precise or prescient powers. The wisdom of the ancestors can sing the future into the present. For this reason, our order, and our order alone, has been given the privilege to interpret the Elder Scrolls. These writings exceed even the gods, both Aedra and Daedra. Such insight into the inner fabric of reality comes at a price. Each reading of the Elder Scrolls is more profound than the last. Each leaves the priest blind for longer and longer periods of time. Finally, the last reading achieves a nearly sublime understanding of that scroll's contents, but the priest is left permanently blinded to the light of this world. No longer can he read the scrolls. This monastery is dedicated to the service of these noble members of our order. They now live out their lives with the ancestor moths that they so love. Their underground demons are well suited to the moth. They raise and nurture the fragile creatures, singing to them constantly. They harvest the silk and spin it into bolts of cloth. They weave the cloth, embroidering it with the genealogies and histories of the ancestors that spun the silk. This is their new life. As they tend the ancestor moths, so we tend the blind monks, and while they toil in dark, we serve in the light. They need food and water, we provide. They need tools and furniture, we provide. They need secrecy and anonymity, we provide. They need purveyors to sell the fruit of their labors, we provide. Wow, that's kind of cool when you think about it. Let me see, what do I have here? I have a visitor's guide to the Televani Peninsula, and I have Oath of the Keepers. Oh, I have a letter from Azandar. He has now become fully realized as one of my companions. And of course, we were the king. Over here, I have the Cold Harbor Compact, which, did you know, right now, and you'll have only a week, less than a week left, if you go into Vardenfell, right? Let's look at the map. Oh, there's so much noise around here. If you go into Vardenfell and do all of the main story quest, if you've not yet done that, which I have, as you can see by the map completion to the left, you will, if you don't own it, receive a free copy of the Gold Harbor DLC. So if you don't have Gold Harbor, it's well worth your time and effort. So get your little tune into Vardenfell and do the main story quest. There are 7 components to it. You can finish it if you put your nose to the grind, and you will receive the DLC for Cold Harbor. And I've decided that I'm going to start reading, even though I do not own them all. I'm going to start reading. Let's find it here. I've been wanting to read these for a while because, you know, Vivic, or Vivic, however you choose, tomatoes or tomatoes. Where is it? Vivic's 36 lessons. I only have 12 of them in possession, and not all in order, which is a pity. I will have to read some of them from an offline source, an online source, I'm sorry, an out-of-world source. But I think I'm going to read all of the sermons of Vivic, of which there are 36. That's going to be quite interesting. So, you know, he's our golden god in Tamriel, right? You know that. So, in fact, let's just take a peek at the first one, since that's what we're going to go to next week. I think maybe I'll change my mind. I don't know. The 36 Lessons, Sermon 1 by Vivic. Sermon 1. He was born in the ash among the Velothi, Anand Kaimer, before the war with the northern men came to first the village of the Nechamin, and her shadow was that of Boethia, who was the prince of plots, and things unknown and known would fold themselves around her until they were like stars, or the message of stars. Ahim took a Nechman's wife and said, I am the face-snaked queen of the 3-in-1. In you is an image and a 7-syllable spell, Ahim Ashati Avek, which you will repeat to it until mystery comes. Then Ahim threw the Nechman's wife into the ocean water where Drays took her into castles of glass and coral, and they gifted the Nechman's wife with hills and milk fingers, changing her sex so that she might give birth to the image as an egg. And there she stayed for 7 or 8 months. Then Seth came to the Nechman's wife and said, I am the clockwork king of the 3-in-1. In you is an egg of my brother's sister, who possesses invisible knowledge of words and swords, which you shall nurture until the Hortator comes. And Set then extended his hands, and multitudes of homunically came forth, each like a glimmering rope through the water, and they raised the Nechiman's wife back to the surface world and set her down on the shoals of Azura's coast. There she lay for 7 or 8 more months, caring for the egg knowledge by whispering to it to the codes of Mephala and the prophecies of Veloth, and even the forbidden teachings of Trinimac. 7 Daedra came to her one night, and each one gave to the egg new motions that could be achieved by certain movements of the bones. These are called the barons of move like this. Move like this. Then an 8th Daedroth came, and he was a demi-prince called Fanut Hin, or the multiplier of motions known. And Fanut Hin said, "Whom do you wait for?" To which the Nechiman's wife said, "The Hortator. Go to the land of the Enderil in 3 months' time, for that is where war comes. I return now to haunt the warriors who fell, and still wonder why. But first I show you this." Then the barons and the demi-prince joined together into a pillar of fighting styles, terrible to behold. And they danced before the egg and its learning image. "Look, little Vec, and find the face behind the splendor of my bladed carriage, for in it is delivered the unmixed conflict path, perfect in every way. What is its number?" It is said the number is the number of birds that can nest in an ancient Tybrol tree, less 3 grams of honest work. But Vivic in his later years found a better one, and so gave this secret to his people. "For I have crushed a world with my left hand," he will say, "but in my right hand is how it could have won against me. Love is under my will only." The endings of the words is Almsivi. Oh, I'm gonna like these sermons, but I don't even have sermon number 2. I'm gonna have to search for it. Maybe that's what I'll be doing between now and next week, is going to Vardenfell and unearthing all of the sermons I don't own, especially, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 next week. And then I'll continue 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 19. Because I suspect this is going to take me a month to get through all of these. So I suppose anyone who wants to come and unearth Vivic's 36 lessons with me in Vardenfell, you are so very welcome to join me, and we'll do it together. And if you would like, I will invite you to come and read some with me next Friday. How's that? Contact me. I'm not hard to find. All right, you guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And have a great and wonderful weekend. And don't forget to have fun with Whitsuntide. Yep, it's all about the PvP this time. Bye-bye.